Hi y'all, I just had Daddy squat the back of my truck for me. Don't it look good, y'all? No.
Look at me, I'm modified.
Hey y'all, it's James Nell here, everybody's least favorite redneck, coming to you live. Well, it won't be live when you see it, but coming to you from the front of the red truck today. As you can tell, we got 6 inches of fender gap in the front. Looks like about a -1 in the rear. As the new saying is called, it looks like a dog scooting its ass down the road. So, hey look, there's a dog scooting its ass in the gravel. Anyway, today we're going to see what happens when you just take out your torsion key bolts. Alright, if you want to lower a torsion bar, there's your torsion bar. Your key is in this area here. This is your bolt right here. Mine's a 3/4. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it out and lay it on the ground. Alright, there they are. They're on the ground. Let's see what just taking the bolts out does. Everybody always says turn down your keys. I think it's got to roll for a second. It's definitely lowered. Alright, that looks like it took out 1.5 inches. Maybe a little more than 1.5 inches. Alright, just taking your bolts out. Give me 1.5 inches and drop. And then we've got about that much gap before we hit the bump stop. So that's very doable. I ordered new upper arms, lower ball joints, inner and outer tie rod, sleeves, the whole deal. So whenever we get all that in, we'll get all that changed over. Still going to do a lot more to make the front lower. Just taking the bolts out was just an experiment. Alright, continue. Okay y'all, so I have got the plate loose that the bolt threads into. Basically, don't turn down your bolt until you put your clamp on. I didn't have one. I used just a big old C-clamp, and the little thing off the end, I used the dimple and the key to hold that in. It didn't really work that well. It shifted over a couple of times and I had to reposition it, but I finally got it figured out. Got them both loose. So now what I'm going to do is try to knock it loose from the back side through this nice little hole back here. And see if I can get the whole torsion bar to free up from the front control arm. That's the mission, that's the plan. Let's see if it works out like that. Well, that's where they give you the beat on this thing at, right? So I have a beat on it with a 2-pound hammer and a bolt, because obviously it's inset. So I've sat and I beat on it, 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 and it's not going anywhere. That's where it's supposed to come out at the end of the control arm on the other end. It's all dirty and grimy. I'm not rolling back down there again to show it to you. There's 3 bolts that hold this cross member in. 3 bolts here. It touches nothing else all the way across. I know that these keys are loose because I can smack them a little bit and they wiggle. So if I move the cross member back, the key falls out. I flip it over, do what I want to, push the cross member back over on top of it, and I think I can do that easier than I can do that. What do you think? Let's find out. Alright, so they come out pretty easy, relatively. I beat the cross member back, they fell out. As you can tell, if you take one and line the hexes up with the other, they pretty much are the exact opposites of each other. But if you line them directly up with each other, like they would be sitting with a load on the truck, you can see that I've made dimples, and this isn't exactly lined up, but I've made dimples. That way when this starts coming up at an angle, if it starts coming up at an angle, the bolt won't come shooting off like that. It'll kind of get hooked on that and sit, just like it does with the factory one. I just didn't go as deep as the factory one. Alright, see how this works out. So we got the keys back in. One thing to note to make them easier to put back in is if you jack back up the front of your suspension and flex it out up, then it'll twist the torsion bar around and you can get the key line back up better when you flip it. Anyway, other than that, it's pretty straightforward. Let's see what it looks like on the ground, just with the keys flipped, stock shocks, all that. Put it on the ground. Alright, y'all. So this is your lower control arm. This is supposed to be the bump stop. It's supposed to be rubber right here that comes down. Mine's already fell off. The one on the other side still had its rubber, but it's off now. Anyway, so it's still touching right here whenever it flexes out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take off the factory bump stop stuff. I might even cut up into this area up here a little bit, just so that this can flex down. And we're going to make it to where the shock is the bottom and out point, and then I'll probably take the shocks off and see how low this thing will go. No more bump stop. Nothing for that to hit. Should be good for several more inches of drop. Yay! Stock front suspension, flip torsion keys, no bump stops. Yeah, what's it sitting on? Yeah, that'll be a problem. Alright. So that's better. I think it matches front and back now. Let's see what it's hitting now, though. Let's look at these bump stops. I don't think there's anything going on right there at the end of that bump stop. I don't think you can see it. Yeah, I don't think it's hitting. Alright. Well, that makes me quite happy. Alright, so as you can tell, I'm missing control arms, missing the sway bar end link, missing the tie rods. I got it all broke free. I even broke this bottom ball joint loose, got it freed up, didn't take it loose. I'm not trying to have all that flopping around free, so I'm going to save that ball joint. Get up under here, and I'll have to cut out these couple of things. I'll have to cut all those out later, but I'll get to that once I get the new control arms put on. What I wanted to show y'all is this. Let's imagine this is your stock ride height, right? And your ball joint is straight up and down the way it's supposed to be. Then you come around and you lower it and you get more of an angle. And then that causes your ball joint to have to kind of flex out more like that. That's all it's got in it. So if you lower your truck more than what ball joint angle it's got, what you're going to get is binding up. And it's going to feel like you're at the bottom of your suspension, but you're still going to feel it flex a little bit until you break your ball joint. And when it breaks, it'll break right in there somewhere. So what I've done is I've took the passenger side and I have cut the ball joint off, and I've literally flipped it from this orientation, and I'm going to put it back on in this orientation, upside down, bolt it back on. I went and bought grade 8 bolts because I knew I was going to be killing those rivets, so I went ahead and bought bolts. I'm going to put it on exactly 100% upside down. That way this will actually flex up and the ball joint won't put itself in an extreme angle. I'm not going to do what lifted guys do and do the ball joint flip, because that will do the exact opposite of what I want to do. That will push the control arm up more and put it at more of an angle. What I want to do is I want to do it in basically the stock configuration where the ball joint sits in here, in between, instead of underneath. And that's what lifted guys do. We're not doing that. We are doing that. Alright, and that's all it is. This is literally probably the only thing I'm going to modify up front and do different than just parts changing. Alright, let's see how it all works out. Tie rod ends here. As you can see, this one tightened all the way down. They're basically touching each other, or they are touching each other. And it is as long as the old one that actually still has adjustability in the middle. So what I'm going to do, not use that, but I'm going to cut probably a ½ inch off each one of these tie rod ends. Some of my new Sawzall bits, because I broke or destroyed every single one of my metal cutting bits doing the rear of the truck. Trick is, don't buy Harbor Freight Sawzall bits if you want to cut something substantial. If you're going to cut sheet metal, whatever. If you're going to cut wood, whatever. If you're going to cut something thick, buy something worth a crap. Oh, I made it shorter. I cut twice, cut it. I overspun this in. There's a little bit of a flat spot right here. I spun it in up to the shoulder. There's my cuts. Didn't include the jam nut. If it can go out, it can go out, but that's as far as in as it can go. Alright, last thing before I put this side together is I'm going to shorten the stock height sway bar and link bars. This is them normally. They have this little sleeve in there. I think I'm going to do is I think I'm just going to shorten my sleeve and run the nut down a little bit further. That way, when it's all said and done, there's just a little bit less gap in between the sway bar and the lower control arm where it's lifted up. I think it'll be good. If this isn't enough, I can come back and shorten it more later. Hey y'all, it's all back together. When I shortened my tie rod ends, I put them back together pretty much full short. I knew it would be pitch and toed in, but honestly, I wanted to be able to adjust them out on the truck and turn the center sleeve, but at the same time as anyway, I just wanted to do it while it was already on the truck. I figured that it would be just as easy to do it on as off. This one needed to be shortened, so I didn't know how short it needed to be. That one didn't need to be shortened, but I still shortened it slightly. That way, if they get it on the rack and they say, hey, this one needs to be shortened, it can shorten back up. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to probably lay under it and twist on the center sleeve and twist it back out straight. Is what I think I can do it. No, I don't think we're going to need that no more. I think we're done fabricating. I think we're done doing all the hard work. Look at this face. What have you been eating? And don't say just banana peppers either. No, you ate more than that banana pepper. Alright, well there it is, y'all. It's about dinner time. Baby's been in there eating on that banana pepper and some old chicken nuggets from lunch, so she's filthy. Oh, let's go in here and call it a night. Tomorrow we'll play alignment and maybe even take it to the alignment shop tomorrow. I don't know.